Hi guys, welcome back to my channel The Fulfilment. Today I will share my own experiences on the topic how to read a poem. A poem may be of Bengali language or English language or Hindi language, or it may be of German language or Chinese language or any other languages. But if you follow up some steps to read a poem, you will be able to know its meaning. You will be able to know properly the meaning of the poem of that language. Because I experienced all these steps to read a poem when I was pursuing my MPhil degree in English. Because my topic was on Ted Hughes, the modern English poet, and the title of my thesis was The Poet as Shown, a Study of Ted Hughes. That's why I had to read a lot of poems of Ted Hughes. But I didn't get sufficient secondary sources or helping books to write the thesis. For these, I only had to read the poems of Ted Hughes very minutely. And I got success. Okay, so I think, my dear friends, students, well-wishers, or the lovers of literature, if you follow my experiences, you will be benefited. That's why don't skip the video. Please watch the full video. You will be very benefited. First of all, to read a poem, you should have to know the background of the poet. Because if you know the background of the poet, that is his life history, his period of composition of the poem, etc., then you will be able to know the background idea of the poem. As for example, if you read any poem of John Keats, first of all you should have to know the background, the life history of John Keats. After reading the background or life history of John Keats, you will be able to know that he is a poet of the Romantic period. He is a poet of sensuous beauty. He presents in his poetry the sensuous beauty of the world. So, in such way, you will have a preliminary idea about the poem of John Keats. Secondly, you should have to know the background of that particular poem which you are going to read. That is, its publication time, the background impulse for the composition of that particular poem, its source, that is from which book it is taken, etc. So after knowing this, that is the background of the poem and the background of the poet, now you should have to read the poem. First of all, you should have to read silently 2 or 3 times. When you will read silently the poem, an idea about the meaning of the poem will be created in your mind. You will be familiar with the words, annotations, and others during reading the poem silently. Next, after reading silently, you should have to read the poem 2 or 3 times loudly. And when you will read loudly, the rhythm of the poem will make you motivated, will give you concentration to understand clearly the meaning of the poem. Okay? Now, you should have to read every stanza properly. How? First of all, you should have to know the meaning of the words of every line. You should try to grasp the meaning of the lines, of the words. You may take the help of dictionary here, but you don't take the help of guidebook at that period. Okay? Secondly, you should try to understand the images. You know what are images? The poets, they use images by virtue of words. So, in the lines there are images. And you should try to know the images. You should try to draw the pictures of the images in your mind. Okay? Thirdly, you should not take the help of the guidebook for the first time. You are going through the text, you are reading the stanza, but first time you should not take the help of any guidebook. Okay? Next point. You should try to understand yourself. You haven't taken the help of guidebooks. You haven't taken the help of your tutor or teachers. So what should be done? You should try to know the meaning yourself. Okay? Next time, now write the paraphrase of the lines of the stanza. That is, write it in simple languages. Okay? Next, you should write the explanation. So after writing paraphrase, you should have to think the images, you should have to think the meaning of important words, and now you should have to write the explanation. Okay? Next, now you should take the help of your guidebooks or any secondary source, that is internet or any other books. Okay? Because now you should modify your thinking. You should modify your writing. That you have written, what you have written paraphrase, you have written explanation. But now, by virtue of the help of the secondary sources or guidebooks, you should have to modify your writing. Okay? So after modification, now you should have to write the explanation again. Next, if there is any important word or annotation or use of rhetoric in the lines of the stanza, write their significance. Okay? So you should select the words or figures of speech and write their significance. Now, after doing this, you should have to do the scansion of the stanza. That is, you should have to divide every line into feet. Maybe it trochaic, maybe it iambic, maybe it anaphaistic, etc., etc. So after doing this, you should have to read the stanza loudly by virtue of the help of the scansion, by virtue of the rules of prosody. And next time you should have to read loudly. So doing all these, you should be able to know the meaning of the stanza, you should be able to read it properly, and it will give you the sweetness of hearing, it will give you the taste of literature. And now after completing a stanza, you will proceed to read another stanza and then another stanza, and in such way you will read all the stanzas. Okay? Now, after reading all the stanzas of the poem in such way, and after writing the explanation and paraphrase of all the stanzas, you should have to write the substance of the poem. You know what is substance? You should write the substance in your own language. It should be very, very simple. And after writing the substance, now it is the time to read critical analysis or criticism of the poem from secondary sources. You may read the criticism of the poem from various sources also. Various critics, they have written notes on that poem. Perhaps you should read this criticism. And now you have a comprehensive idea about the poem. So, in the 8th point, I suggest you to write the critical note of the poem. Because you have written paraphrase, you have written explanation, you have written substance, you have read criticism, and now write the critical note of the poem. Okay? Lastly, I suggest you to write the significance of the title of the poem. Because the title is like a mirror that mirrorizes the main theme of the poem. After completing the reading of the poem or understanding it, it's the time to write the significance of the title. Okay? Because if you write the significance of the title, everything will be clear to you. So, up to this portion, you have done everything to know the meaning of the poem, to know its critical approaches, to know its significance, and now you have written the significance of the title. And at last, I suggest you to memorize the poem if it is short. If it is long, try to memorize some portions of the poem, maybe some stanzas, maybe some lines. Because for answering in the exam room, you should have to quote some lines. That's why you should have to memorize. Okay? So I have discussed 10 points to read a poem properly. I think if you do this, you will be benefited. There will be no poem which will appear to you critical to understand. Now I think if you follow these experiences of my life, you will be benefited to know the meaning of a poem, to know the taste of poetic literature. That's why I share my experiences with you, with the students, with the friends, and also the literature lovers. If you like this video, please share with your friends, students, and others. And write a comment. And also those who have come for the first time in my channel, please subscribe this channel, The Fulfilment. All the best for you.